I'll never forget the morning Margaret Thornberry, our neighborhood's self-appointed tyrant, marched across Willowbrook Lane waving her ticket pad like she was leading the charge at Normandy. Her hair was sprayed stiff as a helmet, her HOA polo tucked in like she thought she was running for mayor, and every step she took you could just feel the righteousness coming off her in waves. She beelined for the black SUV parked out front of the Hendersons' house, didn't even hesitate, just slapped a bright orange violation under the windshield wiper like she was serving a court summons. But you should have seen her face when the window rolled down and a guy in full tactical gear stared back at her, pure shock and that special blend of indignation only someone who's never been challenged can muster. You know what I mean? It was almost worth all the headaches she'd caused just to watch that moment. Let me back up a sec. Margaret had been terrorizing us for 3 long years. She took the HOA president job and turned it into a one-woman military campaign. She didn't just enforce rules, she made up new ones. Measured grass with a ruler, clocked how long trash cans were left out, counted dandelions like she was the weed police. No joke, last spring she fined me $200 because my mailbox was heritage white instead of alpine white, as if anyone but her could tell the difference. She actually pulled out a paint swatch and argued about undertones, and I swear the longer you talked to her, the more convinced you got that maybe you were bringing down property values just by breathing wrong. Anyway, a few days before the Great Ticket Showdown, this unfamiliar black SUV popped up outside the Hendersons. They were gone visiting their daughter out in Phoenix, and of course Margaret knew that since she kept tabs on all of us like she was running neighborhood surveillance. For 2 days she watched that SUV like a hawk, took notes, snapped photos, even walked by a few times pretending to check her own mail. By the 3rd day she was convinced the car was not just a violation, but a potential threat. She called 911 twice, got told a parked car wasn't an emergency, and in classic Margaret fashion, she decided the cops were useless, and she'd handle it herself. First, she left a friendly reminder note about parking passes, then a warning with an HOA bylaw citation, then flat-out threats about towing and legal action. Each note was delivered like she was the sheriff. She even fired off a neighborhood watch email about suspicious vehicles, telling everyone to report any unusual activity to her personally. Some folks tried to tell her to chill, but she just doubled down, called them naive. Little did any of us know the joke was about to be on her. That SUV, it was an undercover police vehicle. The Riverside PD had been running a sting operation on a burglary ring, hitting the next neighborhood over. Officer Derek Mitchell had been in that car for 3 days straight, keeping an eye on a suspect who lived just 3 doors down. The Hendersons' curb was the perfect vantage point, apparently. They'd been tracking these crooks for months, over $300,000 worth of stuff stolen, and this was supposed to be the big finish. So when Margaret waltzed up at 7:30 that morning and pasted her violation on the windshield, she wasn't just being her usual overbearing self, she was about to blow the cover off a months-long investigation. I'd seen Officer Mitchell once when I was out walking my dog late, and something about him screamed cop, but I minded my business. Margaret, on the other hand, was circling his SUV like a shark. She brought out her tape measure, made sure it was parked the regulation 18 inches from the curb, photographed the plates from every angle, even used a flashlight to peer inside, though the windows were too dark to see anything. I heard later she'd put together a 12-page report, complete with timestamps, and even suggested new security policies for the HOA. Real overachiever, that one. While she was grandstanding for Mrs. Patterson across the street, Officer Mitchell was quietly radioing his team. Within minutes, you could hear the low rumble of engines. 4 police cruisers rolled in, but not for the bad guys. No, this morning they were there for Margaret. Mitchell stepped out, badge glinting vest on, looking about as official as it gets. He explained to the other officers how Margaret had been interfering for an hour, taking flash photos, making a scene, possibly alerting the suspects inside. The burglary crew had lookouts apparently, and Margaret's antics put the whole sting at risk. Right on cue, Margaret stormed out, waving her HOA rulebook like it was the U.S. Constitution. She tried to lecture the police about her authority, even cited some city ordinance she'd printed off the internet, flipping through a binder like she was prepping for trial. When Officer Mitchell told her she was interfering with police work, she actually laughed and said, "Real police work doesn't involve sitting in a car all day." Yeah, that happened. Detective Sarah Chen, who'd come as backup, started documenting everything, while Margaret ranted about declining neighborhood standards and how she was just trying to keep everyone safe. You should have seen the look on Margaret's face when Detective Chen read her rights interference with a police investigation obstruction of justice impersonating a legal authority. Turns out those orange tickets Margaret loved to slap on windshields, she'd been signing them as enforcement officer, which isn't actually a real title. She'd even ordered herself a badge online official looking but about as legal as Monopoly money. As the police put her in handcuffs, the neighbors started coming outside, bathrobes, slippers, coffee mugs in hand like it was a holiday parade. Tom Rodriguez actually applauded. Mrs. Chen, who Margaret once denied a navy blue front door, just stood there grinning. You could feel this weight lift off the block like we were all waking up from the world's weirdest nightmare. And the best part, the Henderson security camera caught the whole thing. Within the hour, there was a group text flying around. Folks started sharing their own Margaret horror stories. The time she made the Johnsons take down a birthday banner an hour after the party forced Mr. Peterson to repaint his shed 3 times. Because rustic brown wasn't quite sunset beige, even tried to ban kids from playing outside between noon and 4 because it interrupted her meditation. We were swapping tales like war veterans. That night, the HOA board held an emergency meeting without Margaret there to strong-arm anyone. It was unanimous. She was out as president, and all her bogus citations voided. The new guy they put in charge was Captain James Washington, retired police who knew the difference between a suggestion and the law. His first act, refund every fine Margaret had ever issued, which, get this, totaled over 15 grand, all coming out of Margaret's own pocket, since she'd gone way beyond her authority. You'd think it would end there, but 2 weeks later, Margaret was back in court this time. She'd hired some expensive lawyer to claim she was just a concerned citizen. The prosecutor laid out everything: her fake badges, her illegal surveillance, the way she almost tanked a major police operation. The judge was not impressed. Margaret was found guilty on all counts: 200 hours of community service, $15,000 in fines, and she had to write apology letters to 47 households. But the real kicker: she got a lifetime ban from ever serving on an HOA board in our state. As the judge read the sentence, I swear I saw Margaret's face crumple like she realized her reign was truly over. But if you think the story ends there, you don't know the suburbs. Margaret's supporters, yes, she had a few, still grumble about justice gone too far. Others throw little celebrations every time they pass her old house. And every now and then, when someone parks a little too close to the curb, you'll hear somebody joke, "Careful, Margaret's ghost might write you a ticket." So what do you think? Was justice served, or did it all go too far? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear where you stand on neighborhood power law and just how much control one person should ever have over a community.